But it tends to be that when mom is not feeling well, things really go downhill fast, right? Or if you want to go away, doesn't need to be a mad dash to try to get all kinds of things done. And then you come home and have so much to catch up on because nobody got anything done or didn't know how to do it. That is not what you want.
Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where you'll learn tips and strategies that will empower you to home educate your children. I'm Leigh Nguyen, a homeschool mom of over 12 years, which includes 2 graduates. When I started homeschooling, I was pretty much on my own and was desperate for encouragement and help. My mission is to be a source of encouragement and help to you. Whether you are just beginning your homeschool journey or you're deep into the homeschool lifestyle, Little by Little Homeschool wants to help you stay the course because all the time you are investing into your children is completely worth it. If you're ready to take your homeschool to new levels, keep listening.
Being a part of a family is a blessing, and taking part in family chores is a blessing too. It is not a curse. It is not a bad thing. And you'll see it portrayed like that in most likely media, Hollywood portraying that in TV shows and movies if it's a bad thing. And our kids should not have a consistent bad attitude about it. There, of course, are going to be attitudes and hopefully just only minor negative behaviors about it. But that's when we use discipleship to show them the goodness of work and the results of work. Work was a part of my family culture growing up, and I did not like it. I did not appreciate it, and it still became ingrained in me, even though I didn't like it. And as I grew and matured, I realized that I really do enjoy work. And so it has become a part of the family culture of James and I with our kids, and it is something that is important to us. And part of that work is chores, like we're talking about today. But not just work for the sake of just work. Work for the sake of goodness that can come from it. And it's not creating chores and things that you say have to be done, that aren't necessarily necessary, and they're just a burden or being legalistic about things. But work is commissioned by God. He calls it a good thing. And in my home, in my family, we really seek to see work as a good thing and to do it with excellence and to do it well. Not so that we can always get accolades for it, but for the glory of God. And because as a Christian, as a believer in Jesus Christ, we are called to do things well so that people will know just by the way that we work and the way that we carry ourselves, they will know that we are a representative of Him. And so we focus on excellence with especially chores, which can take time, and that's okay. But we also have to measure this with the age of our kids and their abilities. And so we have to keep that in mind. Obviously, you're not going to have a toddler empty out the knives and maybe the steak knives and the sharp things and stuff from the dishwasher. You're not going to do that. No. You're going to possibly have them take the plastic cups, stack them into each other, and put them into a cabinet that's low enough that they can easily get to. So it's thinking also about that, the age and maturity and the abilities of children. We have to balance that with it. But that's still work. You might say, oh, carrying these cups over and putting in there, it's really not work because it's very, very easy for you. But for them, it's work. And they don't often even see it as work. But it is. It's a part of them contributing. And we all are making a mess. We are all partaking in the household. And therefore, we all need to participate in the cleanup and in the regular chores and the regular housework and the regular maintenance of a home. Because eventually, part of the goal, and you might not be able to imagine this, when my kids were younger, I never could have imagined this, but eventually, you should be able to step away from the home for a day, an overnight, a couple of days, or even get sick and the house not fall apart. Now, we don't want to get sick, obviously. We don't want to be feeling under the weather, not feeling well. But it tends to be that when mom is not feeling well, things really go downhill fast, right? Or if you want to go away, doesn't need to be a mad dash to try to get all kinds of things done. And then you come home and have so much to catch up on because nobody got anything done or didn't know how to do it. That is not what you want. The goal should be that you can step away. Now, obviously, or at least obvious to me, it's never quite the same. I love my family. They do a great job of keeping up with the chores. They know the tasks that they need to do daily and each week. And sometimes there's some extra things, and we'll talk a bit about how to organize which chore is which and when to get things done. But I can easily go away for a weekend and things can get done. And even every evening after dinner, I don't necessarily clean up the kitchen. I've been in the kitchen quite a bit every single day, and I have made a delicious home-cooked dinner. I try to do cleaning up as I go along, or if things are cooking in the oven and I have about 10, 15 minutes while that's doing that to be able to clean up the kitchen some, I will definitely do that. I try not to trash it so much. But I've done a lot. So therefore, my husband or my kids, 1, 2, 3 of them, will jump in and get the kitchen cleaned. Now, in the evening, before I go to bed, I will do one last kind of check of the kitchen. And at that time, usually all of the big dishes, they're dry. And if no one else has put them away, I will get those put away. I will change out towels. I'll set the dishwasher to run overnight. And then sometimes there's things like wiping the counters down because whoever cleaned the kitchen didn't quite notice the crumbs all on the counter or things spilled and didn't quite notice all of the water that's sitting there behind the sink. And, I'll just kind of go in and get it cleaned up so that tomorrow, that next day, I can get into the kitchen and it is fresh and clean and there isn't a mess from the night before. I like to put my kitchen to bed at night. So it's never quite the same. I'll ask my kids to vacuum and I'm like, are you sure you got it in all the corners? Oh, yeah. I'm like, okay, I guess the vacuum is extra suckier when I use it. But they try and there's a learning curve and maybe you aren't necessarily the one that is really good at keeping up with this. Maybe it's your husband and if he ever goes away, things kind of fall to the wayside and you're just there kind of, maintaining order and everything. And that's okay. If he is the one that out of the two of you, you say, you know what, he's actually better at cleaning than me. That's okay. There needs to be, I feel like, one head honcho, one person that is taking the reins, one person that is directing everybody else and keeping track of what gets done and when. So let's talk about a chore system. Now, all of this is broken down into detail in the Tidy Home, where you will create your very own Tidy Home system, one that will work for you right now in this season of life, but it will also equip you to make the changes and adjustments as your kids get older, or maybe as you add more children to your home and you have to make adjustments. Let's just use the example of kids getting older and being more capable. Well, then things will just kind of adjust. And so a new season of life, you can use this system in order to evaluate and figure out what does that look like now. So I have this broken down into 4 different sets of chores. And these different sets all go by a time frame. Again, all this will be at the Tidy Home at littlebylittlehomeschool.com/tidyhome, but you can get started on it here right now. So you can want to possibly write these down. The first would be daily chores. What chores do you need to accomplish daily? What are important? Some of the important ones would be if you have any pets, things like feeding those pets, taking those pets for walks, or cleaning out a litter box, or maybe you have even bigger pets than that. Maybe you have a farm, maybe you have whatever. So there are definitely some chores that are absolutely necessary to life. But then there are ones that you're like, you know what, I really would like for everybody to make their bed every day. I would really like for kids to straighten out the toys in their rooms or in the bedroom or in the playroom every single evening. I would very much like to have the dishwasher run every single day. And so coming up with what are the daily chores and then determining who can do those chores. We don't want all of the chores to fall upon one person, that being you, mom, or 2 people, you and dad. Understandably, if your children are very young, but again, kids can help out in some capacity. They should have some responsibility. Think about little kids. They don't see it necessarily as, we'll use the word chore in a different way, as in some type of negative context. They don't see chores negatively. They don't say, this is such a chore, if we're going to use it as a verb. They don't see this as such a chore to do this. They get excited about it. Turn on some fun music. And not that everything is fun. As they grow and mature and get older, they'll start to realize, oh, I don't need a dance song in order to get these chores done. I can actually just go ahead and get it done. I don't need a timer to get this done. I can just go ahead and get the chores done. But first is to determine what are the daily chores and whose responsibility are those daily chores. And you can decide whether you want to say, you know what, this is your chore forever and ever, as long as you live in our home. And maybe it is a child whose pet, it actually is their dog. And so therefore, yes, that is their chore. But maybe also you can consider, let's rotate. I know some families who rotate who will say, okay, this will be your task. You are to load the dishwasher every single day, and you're going to do that every day for a month. And then it will be the next sibling's chore to do that same exact thing. That way kids get to experience and to get really good at one chore for a while, and then just kind of continue to rotate it through. Or it might be a couple months, or you might go quarters, or you might say during the spring, during the summer, or whatever kind of system you want to come up with, and then just kind of rotating. Or you could just say these are your chores, but they're also just going to be chores that everybody has to do. If everybody has their own bed, then everybody has a bed to make. The second category or time frame of getting chores done are weekly chores. And so it is asking yourself, what do I want to get done every single week? Some examples for me, and again, this is my own personal, this is what I feel is, I don't want to say important. These are the chores that help me to feel like I am moving forward and I am doing well. Oh, I forgot, I was going to give you a daily chore. When my kids were younger, here's a perfect example of when they were younger and how this changes in seasons. When my kids were younger, we'd have dinner and clean up and get baths and all ready for bed, and everybody would quietly read in their bed for a little bit. During that time, I would quickly pull out the vacuum and I would give a good quick vacuum. I know some people use a broom and dustpan. I prefer just the vacuum. Let's just get it into there. And I had a vacuum that was quick and easy to pull out, very accessible right there. And we had a kitchen and dining room that were combined. And so that was where all of the crumbs ended up from every single day. And I just really, really wanted in the evening after my kids were in bed to be able to walk through those rooms and not step on crumbs. And then first thing in the morning before they got up and before breakfast and everything started, I could walk around and not step on crumbs. And that was important to me. That made me feel like at the end of the day, I had accomplished something. I felt like, okay, my kitchen floors don't have crumbs all over them. I can go to bed and I can feel good about the day. Of course, there's lots of other things too, but that would be an example of daily chores. Now, I don't need to do it every single day. It is rare that food ends up on the floor. I know, can you even imagine that? And I don't have a dog even that's coming in and, sweeping through and cleaning it all up for me. But it doesn't happen very often. I still do, there's other things. In the summer we got kids mowing lawn and we got mud season and they're bringing stuff in. In the winter there's salt being tracked in. But it's not nearly as much. I do not need to, if I vacuumed every day, it would be silly. It would be a waste of my time. So I do a quick vacuum. This will then leading into weekly. So weekly, I like to do a quick vacuum midweek just of hit some of the major areas. The kitchen still, there's crumbs and there's things that fall off the counters as we're cooking and walking food around, but it's not nearly as much. And so I'll do a quick vacuum midweek and then I'll do a good vacuuming on the weekend. So for me right now, doing weekend chores actually really works just kind of for our schedule, but I'm not saying you have to do that. So going to the weekly chores. Some other weekly chores is I like to give the kitchen sink a good scrub because I do a lot of cooking, and so there's just a lot of grime that can kind of build up. And so that's important to me. Bathrooms, I like to make sure that those get a really good scrubbing once a week, and I will wipe them down sometime midweek just to kind of give a little bit of a sprucing to it. So weekly chores, determining what you feel needs to happen in a week, and then figuring out who's going to do those, and then possibly when do those happen. Are they a bulk and you want to okay, I just want to get them on a Wednesday afternoon. We're going to spend 2 hours doing these weekly chores and get it done. Or do you spread it out through the week? That's going to be your option. The third is monthly chores. This one can kind of be like, okay, how does this work? And all of this is you can work through in the Tidy Home, and I have sheets and everything for you to print out and to write this on, so it makes it very, very easy to be able to keep track of. But monthly chores are things like, what do you want done monthly? An example for me right now is cleaning out the refrigerator once a month. For you, it might be every single week when you go grocery shopping. You might say, okay, I need to do a quick kind of cleanup of it or a good scrubbing of it because there's a lot of things in and out. And so it's determining what do you want to be done monthly. So that's an example of monthly. Another monthly one is to go through my bathroom and clean all of the the shelves and the cabinets and all the things that just kind of pick up some grime and stuff from just so many people using the bathroom. So those are just two examples, but I do a regular bathroom cleaning as well. This is just kind of some of the extra stuff. So monthly, it's coming up with a list of things you'd like to get done monthly and breaking them up into a couple of different weeks. And you don't have to say week 1, 2, 3, 4. I teach you in the Tidy Home how to adjust when things come up, when people are sick, you got vacations and all that kind of stuff. But just monthly, having a rotation of what you want to have done in approximately every 4 weeks. And we have to always be flexible because we are moms and we homeschool and we know that that's important. The last category is seasonal. What are some of the chores and the housework that you'd like to have done seasonally? A lot of the seasonal ones for my family involve outdoors. So some of those examples would be cleaning out the shed, cleaning out the garage. I do those, or I orchestrate, or I direct those to be done every spring and every fall. Now, come the summer, we just are kind of dumping things in the garage, in the shed, and we're using a lot of things. And then come the fall, I'm like, okay, let's get the shed cleaned up and ready. Let's get the snow shovels onto the back porch. So we have, what do we need for the winter? What are we putting away from gardening and getting that closed up and winterizing that for the winter, and the same with the garage. And so those are some of my seasonal ones. I have other ones that I'll do in the winter and the summer. Some of them are maybe just once a year. So an example of a once a year, so I say seasonal, but this is just one season. It's not necessarily has to be 2 seasons, but something I do in the winter is to go through the basement, clean that out, give it a good overhaul, clear out what we're not using, get things organized. And then things like washing slipcovers on my couches. I might do those once or twice a year and determine when to do that and in which season. I think I have them doing it in the winter. Yes, I gotta remember. So it's just kind of figure out, with the weather, how are things going? I'd rather do some of those indoor things in the winter, and some of them have to be done in the winter, as opposed to doing them in the spring, summer, or the fall. So you have daily chores, weekly chores, monthly chores, and seasonal chores, and we just come up with a rotation. It's a rinse and repeat, and you just keep doing the things, and you will find that as you keep up with these chores, it actually gets easier. So the cleaning of the refrigerator might take you an hour to an hour and a half the first time you do it because you have barely or rarely ever done it. The next time it might only take you 30 minutes to do it, and you might find that you can get it cleaned out in about 15 minutes if you do it once a month. Or maybe if you end up doing it once a week because you have so much food coming and going, and it will only take about 15 minutes. So once you get into the rotation, the rinse and repeat, it really becomes very easy. And we have to make sure, again, that we allow our family to partake in all of this, and that you are not the only one that is doing these chores. You're going to be the one that's going to be assigning them, but you're not the only one doing it. Now let's move into the rest I talked about in the title, was we're going to talk about chore charts and allowance. Maybe that's why you're here, is you want to hear about that. There are a lot of opinions when it comes to chore charts. I have an opinion, you have an opinion. It seems like everybody has an opinion. But when you're deciding whether to do a chore chart or not, you only need to take into consideration your opinion and your husband's opinion, and what is best for your family right now in this season of life. So this is an approach that we took. We did not have any type of chore charts, but guess what? I got tired of having to remember the chores. I got tired of telling kids to do the chores. And we've gone through a couple different chore systems. I did come up with my favorite that lasted for quite a few years. And I said to my kids, this chore chart, no matter what the system was, I said, this is as good as my word. This is like me talking to you, telling you what to do. These are instructions that I am giving you just in a written or picture form for those that can't read. It's the same thing, because I just got tired of saying to 3 different kids, did you make your bed? Did you brush your teeth? Did you clean up your toys? Did you let the dog out? Did you empty the dishwasher? Did you start filling up the dishwasher? Did you sweep the back porch? Did you vacuum the kitchen? I got tired of having to remember all of those things. And especially for the daily chores, there's no reason for you to have to be telling them every single day which chores to be doing when there's maybe the same list of 4, 5, 6 chores that you want them to do every single day. There's no reason for you to remind them. And therefore, I think that a chore chart is absolutely perfect. Now, any chore chart that I recommend the most are ones that there is actually an action involved. a child is moving things or covering something up or changing something, that they're actually doing a physical action helps to feel like you're doing something. I think it gives them a sense of satisfaction. Think about how much you enjoy crossing things off of your to-do list. It's kind of the same way. And so every evening, then take the time and reset those daily chores. When it comes to weekly chores, you can come up with some other way, some other type of chore system, or adding it to it each day or each week, things that they need to do. But I think it's helpful to have a chore chart. If you've been against it, maybe give it a try and maybe not be so legalistic about it, but take the approach of this is my instruction to you, and it carries the same weight as my words, as my verbal instruction to you would. There are so many ideas out there for chore charts. Go ahead and just Google, go onto Pinterest. But again, I really recommend some system where they're actually moving things. And you can make one on your own. You can find ones that are very budget friendly. This doesn't have to be anything over the top. Make it simple. Make it something that they're actually doing something, and let them know that this is as good as your word. And if you don't want to have a chore chart, you don't have to have one. And this is just kind of my little plug in my opinion about it. I know some families function very well without it, and that's fine. And this chore chart is not something you'll do forever. Do my kids have chore charts? Absolutely not. They don't. And they haven't had one in many years. But it served its purpose, it served its time, and it helped to keep my sanity, and it helped to communicate to them. Sometimes they would get up and I would be busy with some stuff with breakfast or whatever, and they're like, what chores do I need to get done? Instead of having to tell them, they could just go and look at their chore chart and get those things done. I had some kids who were like, I just want to get things done. I want to get my homeschool done, and then I want the rest of the day free. You might find that you have some children like that as well. I did. And so enable them to be able to get the things accomplished that they need to, so that then they can get to their reward of having some time to themselves. So eventually you don't have to have any type of chore list. My kids know what's expected of them daily. And then there's this season of life, there's a lot of like random stuff. And sometimes I'll just be feeling overwhelmed with things that I need to do. And a lot of my family is not home a lot right now. They're all working, they're very busy. And so I'm in a season of trying to support them well with that and taking on a lot of the burden of the chores myself. But sometimes I'm just like, I need some help to catch up on some of these things. And I will just write out a list. And on a Saturday morning, it'll be sitting out there at the dining room table. And I'll say, you guys can divvy out how you want to get those done. Sometimes I have specific ones for certain kids because I'm like, this one, I just need this done really well. And so this is the child that's going to do it very well. And so I'll have maybe a name written down next to it, but it's just a scrap piece of paper and just write it down on that. They get the chores done, they move on, they help me, and they help the family by moving forward, and that works for us. So let's talk about allowance. Should you pay your kids? I don't know. I'm not going to tell you either way whether you should pay your kids or not for chores. This, again, people have their opinions, and there could be a season where it is good to maybe give them an allowance, and sometimes there's a season where it just doesn't fit into your budget, doesn't fit into time, it doesn't fit into your vision. Do I think kids should be paid for every single chore that they are doing around the house? No. I don't think that we should get money for things that we are just contributing to a family, because what's going to happen someday when they have their own family and their own home and they're expecting to receive money or some other type of compensation for simply, I don't know, tidying up the bathroom or making their bed? I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think that there are things that need to just be done because you're a part of a family and you're in this home. Do you pay them for some extra stuff? That's going to be up to you. We chose not to pay monetarily for those things. We did give an allowance at one point that was not tied to any type of performance for them. James felt that he wanted to teach them how to manage money. And when he came up with this, I said, that's wonderful. You can completely take care of that. I have so much that I am managing and taking care of and wanting to pour into them that if you feel strongly about this, you are more than welcome to do this. And he did. And so we just pretty much, there might have been one time way back we gave him some, pennies and nickels for doing some chores, but not necessarily. We would rather repay them in time together as a family. For a while, we did a Saturday work day. We were living at a farmhouse at the time, and the farmhouse itself had a lot of work that needed to be done to it. The property had a lot of work that needed to be done to it. And therefore, on Saturdays, we did a lot of physical manual labor. And so Saturday evening, we would have dinner, take showers, and we would watch a movie or do a game night. We'd have maybe some popcorn, a special treat. And that was a way of just saying, good job, guys. We did really good today. So again, allowance, it's going to be up to you. However, does not matter whether you give them allowance or not. Everybody needs to participate in the family. Everybody's making a mess. Everybody's contributing to making a mess and to adding things to the house and to using the home. Therefore, everybody needs to participate in maintaining it. We chatted a bit about the different time frames for getting chores done and specifically about how we work through that in the Tidy Home. Would love to see you over there so that you can create your own system and be able to delegate out who's doing what, when, so that it can just be a rinse and repeat, and you can get the things done that are important so you can move on to better things and more important things in your life as well. So you can find all that information at littlebylittlehomeschool.com/tidyhome. I also look forward to seeing you right back here on the podcast in the next episode.
Thank you for listening, friend. I'd love to connect with you more. You can find social media links in the show notes and share this episode with a friend who could use a boost to her homeschool. See you back here real soon.